And I'll be over here just kind of watching the Zoom and the chat box and all that. My name is Monique Kerner. I'm the Family Community Wellness Extension Agent here at the Cottonwood District. We have 4 agents in our office. We have a district director. He's also our court agent. We have an ag and natural resource agent. We have a 4-H youth development agent, and then I'm the family community wellness agent. So we all do lots of different things, but our job is to bring the evidence and research-based information to the people of Kansas to make your lives better. So I am very excited to partner with a different mindset tonight, and Jill from Clean Skills Elder Law Practice. So I will turn it over to you. You can introduce yourself, and we can do some introductions and go from there.
And we are just go around the table.
Yeah, if that's okay with everybody.
Great.
And then we got about 7 people online as well.
Wonderful. All right. Well, like she said, my name's Jill Wexler, and I'm a care coordinator with Clean Skills Elder Law Practice, and I'm a committee member of the Different Mindset. And I go ahead and have you guys, this is our panel here in the back, the 4 in the back, so I'll have you introduce yourselves.
Mickey Armstrong. My mother suffered with Alzheimer's for about 15 years. I had a sister who also, an older sister, had a stroke, and another older sister who suffered with Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, the sporadic type. She lived a year after that diagnosis. She has passed. And my sister who had the stroke, she developed memory loss and some issues with cognitive ability passed in May. So, and my mother passed in 2011. So.
Hi, I'm Jerry Schmidberger. Some of you met me last night. My wife got Alzheimer's at a very early age. She was 52. We dealt with it for 9 years. She passed away about 7 years ago. Wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, but it's a journey you have to take. And if you love the person that you're with, you'll take it with them.
My name is Tricia Von Little, and mother-in-law was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and vascular dementia about 5 or 6 years ago. And we live out on the farm, and my husband and I live next door to them out there, and she passed away about 3 years ago then. So I was one of the primary caretakers of her since we lived next door, and we miss her a lot.
My name is Tasha Lang, and my mom currently has Alzheimer's. She is 63. Final diagnosis was at about 58. So I help set up care and talk with our family about it. So.
You want to introduce yourself?
My name is Cedar Schmidberger. Is that all I need to say? Do I need to say?
What brought you here tonight?
I actually went to the Alzheimer's convention in June.
On Wichita?
In Wichita.
Good,
It's
yes,
amazing.
good.
And but I had my husband's mother and all her brothers and sisters had it, and his sister died at 62 young with it about 3 years ago. And my mom's sister had it and died, and now I'm dealing with my mom with it. So kind of getting, I've already called to try and get into some studies.
Good.
And so I'm gonna do what I can, even if I have, I mean, me and my husband already decided we will also do clinical trials if we can get them, because somebody's gotta help find a cure. So I've had a lot of it. Yeah.
I'm Donna O'Brien. I live here in Queens. My husband was diagnosed with MCI, moderate cognitive impairment, which they consider, I guess, to be a precursor to it. And not everyone who has MCI develops dementia or Alzheimer's, but most of them do. And I can see he's progressing. He doesn't have a definitive diagnosis yet, other than the MCI, but we go back actually next Monday to Kansas City, and we're hoping then that we'll get a more definitive as to what type it is, so that we can kind of figure out where we're headed with this. But he was diagnosed about 3 years ago with MCI, and he's a little older. It was later on said he's 80 now, and So we struggle because I keep telling him he's too darn smart. He argues with everything, you know, and he knows, and so that's hard on me because I'm always right.
We'll talk about that later.
But, it's definitely a journey, and I agree with Jerry that, if you love them, you know, they're still the same inside, and I'm still who I am, and so no matter how much he changes, we're hoping that he can stay home as long as he can, and that's what our goal is right now.
I'm Shelley Lewis, and, this is my sister Connie Shirkin, but, so there's, Terry, our brother's 58 years old. He has, brain atrophy and dementia. He's under the care of a primary care physician and a neurologist, Dr. Otten. We discovered he had something wrong last February. And then we just kind of went through the steps and watched the changes and tried to figure out what all we need to do. So we have him in Centennial Towers apartment, and we've got a senior companion because he steadily forgets more things, like he all of a sudden couldn't figure out how to use the dryer anymore, so we have a senior companion helping. Connie?
Do you want to add to that at all? No.
You do your.
Oh, I take his medicine to him every day. We weren't even like a week's worth, and that was a horrible ordeal. So now what I do is I take, like today, I took his medicine for tonight with his insulin pen. And I assemble his pen for him. I tell him to get his own shot. And then I've taken these pills for tomorrow morning. And then I put it in a special place that I tell him to leave it alone until our brother calls it next morning. Otherwise, he will take it.
I don't know if you know, they have some medication dispensers that have
No.
alarms and
He
stuff
won't-
on that.
He will,
That would.
That wouldn't work.
Didn't work.
he won't answer the
Okay.
alarm.
Well, it's all yours.
Then he lock up.
Well, we already know that.
Okay.
They lock up after a period of time.
Yeah, they do.
And so it would be locked up
Okay.
because he didn't answer his phones lots of times.
Yeah, I understand. Thanks for sharing that.
Shelley, you want to tell him just a little bit, this was a brain trauma.
Yes, when Terry was 4 years old, our parents were in a head-on crash. And our mom died, and both Paul and Terry, 4 and 5, were riding in the back seat. And so actually Terry was considered to have a brain injury, and they took him to the Plainville Hospital first. And so we think that might have created some of this, but also he is a diabetic and Crohn's. He looks for high blood pressure, high cholesterol. He looks for over-the-counter things versus taking his medicine, so his diabetes isn't always controlled. And then at one point he was, drinking alcohol, and then he stopped for 20 some years, and then all of a sudden during COVID he started drinking again. So and he still is drinking beer occasionally, I think. So it's kind of like we can't control everything. So yeah.
You guys want to start here?
Harold Dingus, I'm here for my sister. I'm not saying too much, but let it, because that's my brother also. It's just been very emotional.
My wife's got Alzheimer's too, 69, in about 10 years coming, so.
Or more.
Yeah,
Yeah, we kind of counted back, and I think it's been 20.
pretty advanced.
Karen Herman, my husband has dementia.
You know, my mom's 97 years old. She's got it where you just see every day where she gets worse, It's Now she doesn't remember what happened yesterday or who called her yesterday. And just gradually goes in steps. I don't take care of it. I know what mom said. I go see her practically every day. And it's, it's hard for me to do this because, I'm used to seeing my mom with the right, now it's totally different.
Yeah, well, I think we were gonna see if anybody online. Yeah. Wanted to introduce themselves.
You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, can we have people online? We'll start with, Doris.
Yeah, I'm Doris Shaw. My husband and I both have aging parents, and so I took a CNA class so I could help with some of the physical issues. And but I think the Alzheimer's and dementia is really important, so I'm just trying to get as much information as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Betty, do you want to go next? Betty, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, Betty. Yeah, that's you.
So what do I want to say?
Just introduce yourself.
I'm Betty Ennis. I think my husband has Alzheimer's or dementia. I don't know for sure. But we do have problems, and they're kind of, I'm sure you all have the same kind of problems. They're just tough to deal with. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, Mary, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Mary Jo Hinka, and my husband was diagnosed with dementia a couple years ago. He also has what's called cortical basal syndrome, which affects his right hand right now, but it will go to the left eventually, I guess, if he lives long enough. And right now he's in the lower stage of the moderate stage, the lower part of the moderate stage.
Karen, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Karen Kyle. My mom is 83. She has dementia. They call it cardiac dementia. She had 5 bypasses and a valve put in. And after that, they diagnosed her probably 10 years later with dementia. And she's progressing more, not remembering day to day who calls or if she took her medicine or if she ate. We're trying to keep her home as long as she can. I help take care of her during the week, and my brothers do on the weekends. And I just want to find more information on if there's anything else we can do for her.
Thank you. And then Mary Hendricks. You able to unmute? If you want to type it in the chat box, if you can come off mute, that would work too.
Okay, I'm here.
There you are. Go ahead.
You want to repeat that?
Just introduce yourself and then tell us why you decided to join tonight.
Why I decided to join?
Yes.
I have a family member that's in the beginning stages of dementia. I just want to know what I have to look forward to, I guess.
Thank you. Okay, I think that everybody. That is it. Okay. Did I miss anybody online? I think that's it.
All right. Well, and so tonight's I am gonna be talking about dealing holistically with dementia behaviors. And I know last night was kind of a more educational on the dementias, the different types. I'm just gonna kind of really just focus on dementia, which includes basically, if you think of dementia as cancer, cancer is a big word. But dementia is the description of many different types of dementia. So there's other Alzheimer's, we've talked about the Lewy bodies, frontal lobal. And so, just gonna really, gonna talk about just dementia overall, because there's just so many different types and different things. But like she said earlier, my name is Jill Wexler. I am a care coordinator, social worker. I worked for about 9 years in long-term care in Eastern Kansas. I did admissions and CNA work and a lot of training with validation, which is a form of working with people who have dementia. And for Naomi File is the creator of that type of treatment or reaction to somebody who has dementia. So that's a lot of my background is from that. And then I came back home. I'm originally from Hayes. My grandma had dementia. She lived to be 102. So she's started showing signs of that when she's in her 90s, 95 or so, and lived in long-term care for a while. And hers was pretty common and normal. Didn't have a lot of behaviors with it, but I started working for Clink Scales Elder Law Practice here as a care coordinator, and I have a caseload of people that I help educate and visit and keep at home if possible. And so today we're just going to kind of visit about dealing holistically with dementia behaviors. So, and I really want it to be kind of interactional, and like if the panel here has we're talking about a certain type of behavior, then if they have a story or something, or if any of you have something that you dealt with and then it worked really well, or it didn't work at all, like the medication thing, I just want it to be pretty open online too. I think Monique's going to track that. So just feel free to be pretty open. And you're here. I sound like everybody's here for the right reason. Sorry, I got like through a couple of the slides there. We don't have a clicker. Yeah, so it sounds like everybody's here for the right reason. You have a loved one that's either been diagnosed, you're worried about being diagnosed, you want to learn some new techniques or some ways of communicating with somebody who has dementia. You want to keep them home as long as possible. Or you're a caregiver and you're just kind of getting overwhelmed. And our group, a different mindset, also has a caregiver support group that I definitely want to plug, because it's a wonderful way to get together like we're doing tonight. And visit with other people and get ideas from other people, because I feel like that's how I learn the best, is I hear from other people. What worked for them might not work for me, but I'm going to try it. You get to that point where you just got to keep trying. So today, I hope you discover ways to identify possible causes. Go back. Sorry. There you go. You're going to discover the possible causes of increased behaviors, how to care for and communicate with somebody who has dementia, utilize different responses to an unwanted action, care for yourself as a caregiver, and identify when is it time to get additional help. So I want to start out with describing what our family members, what kind of challenges do you see with them, what they're dealing with internally and in their everyday life. Can you list some of those challenges that you see with them? Obviously memory, not remembering things.
Well, one thing for Terry, he knows that he's taking medicine, to slow it down, but he doesn't understand why he can't get better. So he struggles with that. So.
Yeah, the understanding part, I think, we got difficulty remembering, clear thinking, just can't realize what the disease is doing and why there isn't a cure.
Yeah, and he doesn't, he doesn't know what day of the week it is. He doesn't know the day. He probably couldn't even tell you what month it is.
Yeah. Any other?
I see a lot of defensiveness in my husband, because it's still, for us, we're still in early medium stages and lots of defensiveness. His favorite saying, and I can just, is, well, I've always been like this. I've always had trouble remembering people's names. I've always had trouble with this, Yeah, but not quite to this extent.
Yeah.
I got a question. Okay, you got dementia, he goes a certain steps. How long ago before they can't walk by themselves anymore.
It really varies between everybody has got a different path. And that's what makes it so difficult. Like I said, you don't wish it upon anybody. I've had people who got dementia and, you know, their physical health was so poor in the beginning that it affected them really quickly. And then, like she said, her mom lived with it for 15 years. And it really depends on how healthy your heart is and your other organs. Because dementia is really affecting the brain, and then, you know, that starts affecting the connections that go through too. So unfortunately, there's no way to tell.
Gail, I remember my wife when she first had it. If I leave the house, the people that were staying with her said they'd watch her, and we put a pedometer on her, and she walked like 20 miles a day in the house, just inside the house.
Oh my gosh.
And I kept thinking to myself, when is this ever going to end? I mean, it got frustrating after a while, but then about 2 years before she died, she couldn't walk by herself anymore. I mean, she had to have help to get her up and to hold on to her. She could walk, but you had to walk behind her and help her along.
I'm wondering, you know, how, because my mom would go, you know, steps, and I was just wondering how long it would be until she uses the walker right now.
Yeah, it'll vary. I mean, she's pretty old. She's gonna get frail just with old age. So it could go faster. I got to the point where I was glad when my wife was in a wheelchair, as opposed to trying to walk by herself.
I was gonna say, I think a lot of doctors go by how falling.
Yeah.
The questions they ask, have you fallen? How often are you falling?
Yeah, everybody's one fall away from needing long-term care, you know, at that point, and you know, one incident could hit your head or, you know.
My mom started out remembering it, and then, you know, now just every time it just gets worse, and I'm just wondering, I don't know nothing about dementia, and I've learned it.
Yeah.
Well, and as Jill said, you know, dementia is the umbrella, and there are many different types of dementia under it. My sister, as I told you, when she was diagnosed with Creutzfeldt-Jacobs, it was it was terminal, because they said most people, once they're diagnosed, only live a year. And that is exactly what happened with her. Her cognitive, when she was in a wheelchair within 6 months after she was diagnosed and had lost, but you know, that's just part of that disease.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, you know, is the steps gonna be, you know, you gotta get to see how the steps are going, and I'm just wondering, you know, how much longer it will be before she'll have to, you know.
I wish we had an answer for you. That's one we don't have. Anyone else have any? You kind of hit all my highlights here. You know, difficulty remembering, clear thinking, difficulty communicating to others, and difficulty providing self-care. It does start affecting them physically.
My husband tends to think things have happened that have never happened, and so definitely he knows this happened, and that's been hard for me when I want to go do anything.
Yeah,
because he's already figured out what's going to happen because it already happened.
Paranoia.
Yeah, he's got a lot of it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also that confabulation. There are pieces of the truth in there somewhere. My sister used to tell stories that, you know, when I would talk to her on the phone, she would say, well, we just saw Nathan, my son. Well, my son had never been up there, you know, but she still thought my parents were alive. So, you know, she would make up these stories, and there was some semblance of truth. There was a couple of things in there that were true, but everything else was a fabrication.
Yeah.
I read that if there's the brain, if it has a gap, like, you know, they have the neurons with memory and everything, if there's a gap in there, sometimes the brain will try to fill that gap with something, whether it really happened or whether it's really true or not. But they're just trying to fill the gap because the brain can't function with the gap.
Yeah. I think you guys did an exercise last night about
Yeah.
the gaps. That was good.
Well, we got thrown for a loop a couple of weekends ago. We had gone up there. My sister's in Osborne memory care, and had a fabulous day. We had a picnic, went to the park, did all that stuff, and got back to the facility, and she starts crying. So I says, what's wrong? And she said, I don't know what I did to deserve to be in here. So we're all like, oh, what do we say? What do we do? So it's like she does remember. I mean, she hasn't said my name for a while, but boy, when I get there, she knows, she recognizes me. So we still have that. But what do you say to those? You know, what do you say when you get thrown for that? It's just like, I felt bad. We didn't tell her our mom just passed away. And I told him, I said, you know, I don't think she needs to know that. Because they say they just focus on that one thing sometimes. And I don't want her to be sad out of nowhere, you know, when she has it already. So, but I didn't know how to respond to her. You feel so bad, guilty, but it's just like, wow, where did that come from? Because half the time you can't understand what she says. She mumbles and she does this gibberish to herself. It's real soft. And then she just kind of says something, starts laughing. So we all start laughing with her. But it's hard for her to understand.
I think we talked about last night how in those moments when you don't know what to say, we've learned that a hug goes a long way.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I'm just scared.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to vocalize that or say it, and you'll be surprised at how much just a nice big hug will help them.
I got on one side of her and her son got on the other, my nephew, and kind of just, but it's just like, man, she's just balling up a storm.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and those are wonderful things that we are gonna kind of talk about here in the next few minutes. So I want to go ahead, next slide. 5 steps that I want you guys to consider when a person with dementia has a difficult behavior, like you've all described here. The 5 steps that I can think of, came up with are, you know, you want to check with the physician first, and we're going to go into each of these a little bit more. Remember and understand that you cannot change that person. Remember that their behaviors have a purpose. Their behaviors probably have a trigger, and that what worked today to answer that question probably may not work tomorrow. So we're going to kind of go into those a little bit more. So first thing is check with the physician. Why should we do that? We need to eliminate any possible acute cases where you know, you have somebody who maybe has been diagnosed with dementia, and they have some symptoms, but all of a sudden they're worse. They're seeing things, they're, you know, bugs are crawling on the wall, or there's, you know, they're having delusions, and or they're just crying all the time, and just an increase in something, a behavior. So you want to rule out, do they have, we always go to UTI, urinary tract infection. That's probably the #1 cause of increased behaviors with dementia. So you want to have them tested. Are they in pain and they just can't communicate to you what's going on? So then they're acting out in another way. Is there a medication change and there's an adverse reaction to a medication that they had, or even an allergy to something, you know, you didn't know they got into a food or something like that. So we want to always try to treat the medical issue before adjusting a medication or anything like that. Have any of you had experiences where, you know, the behavior did increase and you found out, oh, it was a UTI?
We can always tell when a UTI is setting in.
Yeah. My grandma would start, like I said, she had real mild memory issues, and she'd call my aunt up and she'd be like, I'm sitting here at the church with all these pies, and where are you? And she'd call in the middle of the night and she's angry. And we're like, she needs a urinary tract, you know, please go ahead and test for her because something's not right. So yeah, it's amazing what an infection can do to your body. So that is the underlying first thing. If they ever try to send somebody off to a Jerry Psych hospital, they won't even take them until you've ruled out the medical piece of this, that it's not medically, you know, something else that's causing the dementia. And you know, you probably have had people too who have the hospital dementia. You know, they've been in the hospital for a while, they can't remember, you know, that just causes some dementia of its own, and it takes some time, some weeks to get that out of your system. So, you know, but then they're normal, they're back to normal. So I definitely want the first step is always to rule out the medical. Any questions? Yeah.
I was gonna say, sometimes those UTIs are not even caused by medicine. I found out that the body wash I was using to clean my wife was causing them. And when they told me about it, what to use, she never had one after that.
Wow, that's good.
But when she did have them, still.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that, you know, they can't express what's going on with them. And that's why you gotta spend some time trying to help figure it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be a detective.
Be a
Yes.
detective.
That's coming up too. Did you read my note?
No, no.
Don't be afraid to ask the doctor. Like if they're given medication, ask them why they're giving this medication and what's gonna happen when it kicks in. Is there gonna be any byproducts on this? Or,
Side effects.
yeah, because there's a lot of times we were taking medications where we had to take 2 other ones to take care of the side effects. Well, when you stop taking the original one, we're still taking the 2 for the side effects. Why are we doing that? So you ask them questions. Some of them don't like it, but that's okay.
Yeah, and you have the right to say no to a doctor, you know, if you're their healthcare power of attorney and don't like the direction things are going, I think a lot of my clients don't realize that they can say, no, I don't want to do that, or that's not, you know, what I want for my loved one, and they wouldn't want that either. So, a lot of my work is advocating and making sure that people know what their role as a power of attorney is.
I just discovered that, how powerful that term is, power of attorney. We were working with the insurance, you know, changing Medicare and everything. And all I had to say was Terry was sitting there, but we were on a speakerphone. And all I had to say is I have power of attorney for his medical issues. And it was amazing, the power that gives you, because they immediately, I mean, okay, we respect that, and immediately start, you know, respecting what you're saying and allowing you to speak up. And
Good. Second thing I wanted to move on to is that we cannot change the person, which I think you're all experiencing. To really understand and remember that this is they have a brain disorder and it's shaping who they have become. And I think I remember hearing somebody say once, you know, when somebody has cancer and things are changing in their body and they're not eating as well and they have lots of pain, you know, how often do you blame them for having cancer? You know, they got diagnosed with it, you know, that's not what we do. We feel bad for them. But when it's dementia and it's hard and it's difficult, you know, a lot of times we get angry at them for the things that they're going through, but they have a brain disorder that's shaping them. So although it's very difficult, it's important to understand that. And when you're looking at them, to see them through that lens, you know, that they really don't have control, and what they're saying to you is what they really see and they really think. So when they're having a behavior that's we want to try to accommodate the behavior, don't try to control them, because as you know, when you try to control them, it bounces back. There was a great saying at one of the trainings, maybe when you were down in Wichita, it says it's better to be happy than to be right. And there's some big truth to that when you're dealing. Yeah. So you can argue with them till you're blue in the face, but you're probably not going to win that argument. So walk alongside them, you know, just try to get into the world, provide a distraction for them, try to validate the emotions that they're having when they're upset. Like you guys did a great job of, you didn't know an answer, but you knew that she needed love, and that's what you gave her. And that's what ultimately they all need. And the hardest one is when there's a behavior, most likely you need to change what you're doing and what your reaction to them is. At the facility I worked at, my boss was real blunt lady, and she would say, well, what'd you do wrong? Why'd you get hit? You know, or, you know, what could you have done differently? It's like, oh man, you know, it's constantly learning, but you know, there's some truth in that. If I had done a different thing or taken a break and let somebody else do it, because I knew I was a trigger for this person, you know, maybe I wouldn't have got pinched or kicked or whatever. So I think you were talking about the investigation piece that's coming up. We got to constantly just be reevaluating how we handled the situation and what we could do differently. And that's what groups like this are so good about. Caregiver support groups is you can tell them the things that you did, and they can tell you what you did wrong or what worked for them or what didn't work for them. And so we can learn from each other. So, does anyone have anything about that? Okay, the next slide is behaviors have a purpose. So we're going to kind of break that down. We think about the 5 basic needs that we have in our life. We need food, we need water, clothing, sleep, and shelter. So when somebody's having a behavior, you need to ask yourself, what need are they trying to meet with this behavior? And when possible, try to accommodate that need. So when you think of food. Are they hungry? You know, when there's something going on, are they hungry? Are they thirsty? Are they cold? Are they hot? Are they just tired and exhausted? Or are they slept too much? Are they, and when I think of shelter, I think of feeling comfortable and feeling safe and feeling purpose. Those are the things I think of when I think of shelter. So maybe their behavior is trying to tell you something, you know, that they're missing, that they need. So like, for example, I've had the client who did this. She kept taking all of her clothes out of her closet and would put it in a suitcase every day and to unpack it. And so if we look at the 5 things we need to do, we knew it wasn't medical because you know, we ruled that all out. We knew we couldn't change her behavior, so we went ahead and got her several suitcases so she'd quit, you know, having too many, or you know, having them flowing all over the place and getting frustrated with that. And so, you know, we tried to figure out, she was bored, number one. She was a very busy person, so we started having her help with the laundry. We started, you know, doing things like that and realizing, you know, she would start doing this right after lunch, and that's what she would do at home. She would always do the laundry and start folding it. So that's what she wanted to do. She had needed something to do, but it could have been other things, you know, be that investigator. What was their job? Did they used to travel a lot? You know, maybe somebody's just like worrying, you know, loved to travel. And so they were just loved that part of their life and they got to pack up their clothes and head out. So, that was just kind of a fun one to just let her do it. I mean, it was a pain for everybody to get her clothes back in there, but it kept her busy for quite a while. So it was nice. Maybe, and this kind of is in the nursing home setting, but it could happen at your house too. They're wandering into other rooms. You don't want them to do that. What are they looking for? Are they searching for companionship? Do they need the bathroom? They have no idea where the bathroom is. Are they hungry? Are they cold? Lonely and bored? Those are kind of things that we always just kind of ask. And, you know, when you have a baby, what do you do when they're crying? You check to see, are they wet? Are they hurt? Do they have a fever? Are they hungry? You know, do you never just say, you know, here's some Depakote, let's get you all fixed. You know, you take care of that child and try to figure out what's bothering them. And sometimes I feel like medication is overused. Definitely want to try to work with the person's behaviors without medicating if that's possible, but at times it's necessary too. So you have to just really figure it out. Yeah, Mickey.
My mother, and you may have run into this, but she was really only wanted to wear this one shirt, you know, this one shirt. So we went to Penny's and we bought all the shirts that looked like that.
That's awesome.
And we hung them in her closets, so she would have a clean one every day to put them on. Because that, you know, it wasn't worth fighting about. You know, you pick and choose your battles, you know, so that's what we did. And so you have to be creative.
Well, another thing that's pretty common behavior is somebody getting up and down out of their chair. You said your wife just walked everywhere, and maybe that's just what gave her comfort. Maybe she sat, she hurt. I mean, have you guys ever sat so long that you're like, I can't even get up out of the chair, or you laid down and slept for so long, everything hurts. So maybe if they're getting up and down, are they in pain? Again, do they need the restroom? Or do they need to exercise? Sometimes that's just all, you know, we need to move our bodies and keep them active. And so those are kind of some things to really be thinking about when different behaviors are happening. Any other thoughts? Move on. Okay. Behaviors can be triggered. This one's kind of an interesting one. You definitely have to put your investigator hat on. But a lot of times the behaviors have a trigger or are occurring for a reason. So what happened prior to the behavior? For example, we had a lady who, you know, 10 o'clock every day, she'd watch this TV show and then she would cry. I mean, she would just be tearful. Well, the TV show was about a mother and a daughter and you know, it just always brought back memories of her mom. And so then we just kind of switched up what show she was watching and that was it. I mean, what an easy fix, but it doesn't always work that way. Or we had people who would get outside of the facility or would try to leave when everybody was leaving. They saw everybody grabbing their purses to go clock out and they'd follow them because they were a nurse too. And they knew, oh, it's shift's over, I'm out of here, you know? And so we started having people hide their person, you know, you need to go out a different door, or, you know, kind of figured out a way to stop that behavior because we were triggering it. Anyone have examples of something like that? Yeah.
One morning, my wife was up and I had her ready for the day. And someone was gonna come in and watch it for a couple hours so I could get to an appointment. And the lady came popping in the door and she goes over to my wife. She goes, "Good morning, sunshine. How are you?" And she was very close to her. Next thing, slap, right? And everybody just kind of, what the world? But she got into her space. And the lady that was watching her realized that she got too close to her. But she was quick to knock her out.
Didn't do that again. She changed her behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was triggered, and kind of like what my boss used to say, what did you do to get hit? Or what did you do that caused, what could you have done differently? So you just have to constantly be evaluating that. How can I change my action or reaction? Try something different. When you have a behavior that's happening, we used to have a lot of people that love to be outside. I mean, we have farmers in this area, you know, and then we stick them in a nursing home and they don't ever hardly get outside. So the nursing home I worked at, we have 2 or 3 golf carts and we just go for rides. We'd take the bus and go check the farm, you know, all those kinds of things, just trying to accommodate their needs and make sure that they were getting outside and went fishing. They did the things that they could do. Yeah.
When my parents were still at home, my mother was to the point that, you know, the refrigerator was really pretty nasty. You know, she wasn't, taking care of the kitchen and anything, and Dad wasn't gonna help, so my sister and I, we would go in there and clean it when she was awake, and that really ticked her off. So we waited until she went to bed. We got up at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, went down, we cleaned everything up, and she didn't know the difference. And my dad did, because he saw see the dumpster outside. He said, "You guys clean the fridge?"
Yeah, we did the same thing with when my mother-in-law would they take her to church, and I would go over there and clean the house while we were at church. And then she didn't know. When she got back, that didn't happen.
I guess with Terry too, if he hears you opening like a cabinet door, a closet door, he gets irritated because he wants to know what you're doing. It's just like an invasion of his privacy.
Yeah. There's times when I think he's guilty of something and he's the one to get caught.
I think we're all like that.
He won't care if I go into, you know, go in his kitchen, and some days I'll go, "Don't do it, don't do it." He's hiding something, and I'm just, "Don't do it." I just say, "Okay, well, give it to him."
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of causing
Yeah, I don't know what he did that day.
Gotcha.
Beer can.
Probably, yeah.
Like my mom yesterday when we see her, she says it rained last night, didn't it? I said, "No, it didn't." "Yes, it did." "Okay, all right, it rained."
Well, you ask her if she needs an umbrella for next time.
Yeah.
And the farmers will be happy, right? If it did rain, so, yeah. So then the last step would be to work, what worked today that might not work tomorrow. And I think you probably all experienced that, like, wow, you know, you feel so good, you had a great day and you had a really good response and the behavior was, you know, changed really easily. And then the next day, the same thing happens and you do it again and it doesn't work. And so you just have to constantly, I think Mickey said, you just got to keep being creative. I think it's really important to have a team. If you're trying to do this alone, it's going to be really hard. You know, if you don't have family, maybe you have a church family or you have a neighbor. I think if you're, you know, if you have some people, the caregiver support group, just somebody to talk to help support you. One size fits all does not apply when you're talking about somebody with dementia. I think at the conferences, they always say, when you meet one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia. You know, that's a pretty common phrase with this disease. So I think it's really important to build that support group, support system for you. One of the things I said too is when somebody says, you know, you're at the grocery store, well, how can I help you? You know, I know you're going through a lot. Of course, right then you can't think of a single thing that you need help with, but what they recommend is like, can I have your name and number and I'll call you as soon as I can think of something that I can maybe have you do for me. You know, just take that help. People may, and if they don't mean it, they're probably gonna give you the wrong number or they won't ever answer. So that's okay. You know, it is a good way to just start building that support group for yourself. So next I want to start talking about behaviors that we have had to deal with when you're dealing with somebody and taking care of somebody who's living with dementia. I have a lot listed here, so we've talked about several of them already, and we're going to kind of go into each of these a little bit into more depth. So communication difficulties, wandering, leaving the house, or you know, I don't know if any of you have had that problem yet, but with winter coming, I worry about that a lot for some people. Incontinence, agitation, repetitive speech or action, inadequate nutrition, difficulties with bathing and dressing, paranoia and hallucinations, sundowning and sleeplessness, and then sexual inappropriate behaviors, which a lot of people don't think about, but when you work at a nursing home, you probably you probably do have to deal with it at times, so it's not always the best topic.
What is sundowning?
Sundowning is so towards the end of the day when usually I assume, you know, when people get more tired, they start having more behaviors. It's just towards the afternoon, the sun's going down, it's getting dark. Huh?
Linda, how's that? But like if you go see her in the morning, that's kind of the see her, the best she'll be. Noon to 2 o'clock, you just see things start to turn, won't pay attention to anything.
Yeah.
It's worse and worse by the day goes on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty common.
Kind of like a toddler, isn't it? You know, they'll be good all day or all morning and through lunch, and then as the day wears on, by about the time you're trying to fix supper, they're just totally terrors.
Yeah, yeah.
Before I had this job, I worked in early childhood, and everything that you're talking about, I can find something in early childhood that matches what you're talking about. You know, like meeting the basic needs, you know, we talk about that with babies and toddlers, or simplifying things, you know, you don't ask open-ended questions. You know, it's a choice. It's water or juice. It's not what would you like to drink. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. If you've raised children, you know, you're kind of having to go back into time and take on some of those.
Keeping your composure. If you're agitated and angry, they're going to be the same way. So keeping that composure, and we do that with our kids too.
Go in the closet and scream.
Well, and you know, you have to have a sense of humor about this stuff, because some of these things are funny, and you just, you know, and you have to be able to laugh about some of this stuff, and it's okay to get angry. But don't take it out on the person, you know.
I laugh about this because we just went on vacation with my mom this past weekend. We took her to see her aunt, and it was my dad and it was all of us actually. And everyone would be like, gosh, I should just go back. I'm pretty calm. And I'm like, all right, I'll take her. And this like, I don't know how you keep doing it. I'm like, have you ever taken your drunk best friend in the bathroom? That's what it's like every time. Pull down, pull up, turn around. No, not right there. And it's like, oh, yeah, just sit. We'll just sing a song. Like, finally, I was like, yeah, my best friend, when I take her to the bar or something, that's how I feel.
That's good.
The other day, my husband, I came home from Dillard's and I had some really neat looking red boots, and I said, I had a gentleman tell me he liked my boots. Oh, no, he probably didn't tell you that. He told you he liked your boobs. And all day long, he did this.
And you just said, thank you. I like it too. Communication tips, that's the next thing. So, yeah. So how do we communicate with each other? I mean, so up here, I'm verbally communicating with you. I'm also using nonverbal. I'm a talker with my hands. And then there's also the visual. We have the slideshow, and it's written. So there's different ways that we can communicate with somebody with dementia. And when they have dementia, it's just a little more difficult at times. So, you know, we were, as we went around, you know, some of you said, they still know me. Your sister still knows you. She might not be able to say your name. I used to get so mad at my mom when we go to the nursing home and she'd walk in. Do you know who I am? I'm like, Mom, I've told you this 5,000 times. Just go in and say your name. I mean, it just makes grandma feel stupid. And you know, you got to think, I am horrible with names. I can't tell you any of your names. So you just introduce yourself and it embarrasses me, but it's not that I don't care. I just really don't know. And so that's one thing that used to really bother me is like, I just walk in and say, hey, my name's Jill, and you know, try to let them know who I am. So they don't have to guess. We're just right off to a really good start that way. And so that's one of my biggest pet peeves is I don't care if you remember me or not. I probably don't remember your name. So I always like to introduce myself because that makes that other person introduce themselves. Or they're like, yeah, Jill, I know who you are. I'm like, okay. So, you know, it just works. Some of the other tips that I have for you, you know, use a pleasant voice. You were saying, stay calm. When you get angry, guess what? They're going to get angry. They're going to get anxious. They're not going to listen. They're just like a child. You know, you see when that stares like, I'm not listening to you anymore. You're just talking. So, you know, smile at them, speak slowly and calmly. And you don't have to get, I mean, unless they're deaf, but I find myself, you know, after I worked in the nursing home a long time, I'd start talking really loud to just anybody who was over 75. You know, it's not necessary. Just they may not understand you. You just need to maybe talk more slowly or just simplify the language that you're using too. You don't necessarily have to talk more loudly. It's not going to help them understand you better.
Does it help with someone who is hard of hearing to get hearing aids? My husband is losing his hearing really bad.
So honestly, some dementia,
this communication.
Sometimes hearing loss is misconstrued as dementia because I mean, I keep telling my mom she needs to go get her hearing tested because I really think it's a hearing thing. She's just either not paying attention or she's not listening. And so, yeah, a lot of times the hearing can make the dementia worse because you're really right. The communication is way more difficult when they cannot hear.
It's not that they don't remember that you said something, it's that they didn't hear what you said.
At times, yeah.
Exactly. Terry, I talk fast sometimes and he'll tell me, slow down.
Yeah. Good reminder. I need that too up here. So just yell at me if I start talking too fast.
The hearing aids can be a good idea, but they can also be a nightmare. It's they'll throw them in the trash.
Yeah.
They won't know where they take them out. My mother had.
That would be more for early.
Yeah.
Early stages.
My mother had dentures and we kept them at the nurse's station because they would end up in the trash or something.
Yeah, and you can do that too with the hearing aids. We used to, when the family would come in, the first thing they do is go up to the med cart, get the hearing aids, put them in so that they could be the ones responsible for them because they didn't want to pay $3,000 for a lost hearing aid. I think Randy, my boss, always tells a story about his grandmother and her hearing aids. She kept losing them, so you know they came up with an idea to just one of those eyeglass things. They figured a way of connecting them to the hearing aids, so when they'd fall out, it'd be hanging on her shirt instead of on the floor. But yeah, you're right. It can also be very difficult. We had an 80-year-old nurse that's worked at the facility, and she got hearing aids about when she was 80, and she says, no wonder my residents, get so frustrated, like, just dealing with the sounds that you haven't heard in forever and not being able to communicate to the doctor to explain what they're hearing and get it perfectly right. So I have never worn hearing aids, but there's pros and cons. You just kind of figure it out. I would definitely say get his hearing tested and see what they recommend.
We have
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think if you're having hearing loss, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're having hearing loss, it's a good dementia, without dementia, you want to get your hearing checked because once your brain stops hearing those sounds, you lose those sounds. It's like if you don't use it, you lose it. So you could have onset of dementia or what would seem like dementia from that hearing loss because you're not able to make those sounds anymore.
Yeah.
To the point of visual and written, some tips that we learned is there were 4 siblings, and we all took turns every night coming over to bring supper because she wasn't cooking anymore. And one way we would visually let her know who was coming that night and the day is we found a little magnetic calendar we put on the fridge. and we would write the days of the week every week and whose name on there. But I found online on Amazon, I think, that they make these little, they look like those digital picture frames.
Yeah.
But all it shows on there when you plug it in is the day of the week and the count and the day of the month on there. You know, Monday, November 2nd. And you could tell, she was proud, a proud lady who didn't want to admit she was struggling. So, but if you had a conversation with her, you could see when you're talking about days and if someone's coming out Thursday or something, you could see her look up, we put it up on the fridge so that she knew where it was, but she didn't think anybody else knew it was up there. We all knew it was up there, but it was just something to give a little peace of mind for the folks that really like to know what day it is and when things are happening, and that you can give those kind of helpful things with it.
Where did you get that at?
Online, I can find some sort of, I can write it down for you.
That, my mom might go over there. Today was Sunday, you know, and
Yeah, it's handy. It's handy.
Yeah, and some, if they have visual problems too, there's some calendars that you push a button and it reads it to you, which is kind of good too. I've got quite a few clients that have visual impairment, so that.
I have a dry erase folder, but I keep it in the bathroom because that's one place I know he always.
It's too expensive.
But then it's got the days of the week and then I put today is blah, you know, and the month and everything. But if I have to go out and he still can stay at home by himself, but sometimes he's taking a nap, whether he doesn't remember that I had to leave. If he can see on the calendar that, oh yeah, she had to go pick up the kids from school today.
Yeah.
And he knows where I'm at. And he doesn't call me 13 times.
Yeah. Wish my husband would do that.
Yeah. I ended up taking out stock in the Post-it company because of the amount of Post-its I used to leave notes with the little cup of pills but after a while I ended up having to take them because she still wasn't taking them. But just Post-its for like this, you need to put your dentures in the denture thing at night with the pill and things like that, that for a period of time, they're able to do those things on their own if they can remember why that thing is there and what they're supposed to do, but eventually they can, they stop having the ability to do that, but it's helpful for a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I have a client who made a flip chart of, I'm going to the grocery store, and he put that on the table, and so when he was gone, she would be able to know where he was, or I'm in the backyard. Those kind of things. I think that's
on my list
helpful.
every day. And I did it for me to begin with, but now he counts on it.
To look at that and find out what's going on.
And I tell him when I'm leaving and when I'm coming back.
Yeah. So of course you guys have probably kind of figured out too, sometimes it's better to do, yes and no questions instead of the open-ended. And to speak simple instructions. One of the things we've done just kind of to bring the awareness to people is write down how many steps does it take to go get the milk out of the fridge? And if you really think about it, if you're sitting down and you stand up and you take all these steps over, if you really break it down, you could break it down into probably 20 different steps. So if you're just asking, go get the milk, to somebody, that is actually telling them to put together 20 different steps to get the milk, and they just can't process that. So it's really start learning to break down the things that you're needing from them if they're still able to process, and help you fold the laundry or whatever, not to just blatantly say, go get the milk. Well, that to them, they just may not be able to do that. And so if you ever think about it, just try to write down all the steps it takes to get up from the chair. I mean, literally, you have to put weight in your feet. You have to stand up and straighten your legs. And then you have to take your right foot and you have to put it in front of the left foot. And you have to take the left foot, and there's steps. Where is the milk? You get up and then you're like, why did I get up? So yeah, it's really important to just simplify everything that you need them.
I was gonna tell you, Terry, who does not like to be asked questions.
Yeah.
And so you have to learn how to phrase it differently to get a response.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge. Yeah.
One of the big things we talk about at our office too is just respecting that person with dementia, because a lot of times they come to meetings that we were in, or a lot of times I'm visiting with them, and family gets used to just talking around them like they're not there. And that's really, really, really hard for that person, because a lot of times they hear you, they know what's going on. They can't maybe respond or put together the thought that they want to have. But, you know, just really making sure you're respecting them and giving them a chance, because a lot of times they want to respond. And I've learned so much patience. If I do ask a question and there's not a response, but if I wait a few more seconds or even a minute, then all of a sudden there's an answer, and I'm like, I'm so glad I waited, because they were really trying. And if I just started with another question or another topic, I just so disrespectful to them who were trying to respond to what I was asking them.
I
So
don't know which meeting it was when we were at, and it was like a year or 2 years ago, and I think I brought up, I'm like, she can hear everything, she can hear, like, we'll be in the kitchen, I'll be like, we'll be whispering something, and then all of a sudden she was offended, and we're like, why is she offended, like, what did we do? Like, I think it was Mickey did one time, like, in every conversation, she would sit away from us. She still does, but she would like, her body's away from us, and she was turning her ear to us, so we didn't have, I was like, yeah, we're an idiot. Like, so, yeah, she definitely attends to the conversation, doesn't always participate, but
yeah,
we found out real quick.
yeah. Meet them at eye level. You know, if you've got somebody in a wheelchair and you're standing over them, it's very intimidating. So, you know, one of the techniques when somebody is down and they have dementia, instead of putting your power over them, which is going to put them on the defense, you know, get down on their eye level and, you know, say who you are. So make sure you make that connection with them, and then you can reach out and touch their hand and then tell them why you're there, and just really providing all those different types of communication. And we talked about waiting patiently, using hand gestures. You know, if you're trying to help them, have them brush their teeth, and you just start brushing your teeth with them, they may figure that out by you're doing the motion with them. Or one of the techniques they talk about is, you know, hand over hand. You know, you put their hand on the toothbrush, but then your hand goes around the behind them so that you can help them brush their teeth more. But they're still, you know, a part of the behavior, or part of the action that you want them to do. Yeah, same thing with folding the towels. If you just stand on the other end and fold, they're going to kind of hopefully still be able to mimic your actions that you're gesturing to them. We talked about pictures and words. A lot of times a picture is better than a word. If you see a word, but you can't figure out what that means, but you see a picture of a toilet, oh yeah, I do have to go to the bathroom. You know, I mean, it's kind of like the dripping water. You hear the water going and everybody has to go. Or, you know, if they, you know, if they're not really understanding or can't hear very well, you know, just have, you know, pictures of a table setting. Yeah, we're getting ready to go to dinner. Or if you need to go out, getting in the car, a picture of the car. I mean, sometimes you just have to get real simple like that. So that they know.
We think in pictures.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's exactly what we do with the little kids. We have a picture schedule, so they know what's coming out.
I tell my mom this. I said, you know how to beat that Medicare test that they give you every year when they ask you to remember those 3 words. I said, you have to do a picture in your head. So when I was doing those tests a long time ago, it was always apple, table, penny. So I always in my mind created that picture of a table with an apple and a penny on top. And I never forgot those 3 words, because I could always go back to that picture and see them. So pictures are just something we can remember a lot easier than maybe a word. So now you guys will never fail the test, right? we can trick them all. Okay, so just yesterday I was in Hoisington, and I was visiting my client who really didn't care that I was there. She was asleep and she was comfortable, but the 2 ladies in the room with her were screaming. One was yelling and fixing her sock, and you know, none of them were really saying a lot of words that made sense, but you know, I was able to pick up on some words that they were saying and repeat them. So they were like, oh, she's listening, you know, even though what I was saying made no sense, but they knew I was listening to them. And so that went really well until the one lady was just saying, help me, help me, help me, help me. You know, and I went over there 10 times trying to help her with her blanket and figure out what was wrong with her. And then it was, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. And so then my heart starts, you know, breaking for her because I don't know how to fix it, you know. So she's in that repetitive words, and I just kept repeating, you know, I get it, you're scared. I don't know how to fix, you know, you're safe. I wanted her to feel safe. So, and then I got to the point where are the staff? You know, like, I don't know what to do. I mean, you really get to the point where you don't have And the answer, you can't fix it. And I think, you'll see this at facilities. They know that theirs is just gonna keep going. Nothing I could do. I tried to redirect, I tried to interrupt, I tried to introduce something new, it didn't help. But, at least for those 10 minutes that I was there, they knew that they were being heard. And so that was the best I could do. And the girls were in there making cookies, and I thought, well, they're gonna give her cookies, and that might be make her, feel happy and safe. So, but yeah, so I was able to listen and, just make that connection with them. And obviously that's a very advanced stages of dementia, when somebody's at that really repetitive motion and repetitive words. And that's when you really need help, because it does get hard. They were giving the one lady suckers. I seemed to quiet her, but she would go, I'm scared with her sucker in her mouth. So it worked for a little while, but anyway, any other communication tips that you guys would like to go over? Okay. Things to avoid. We kind of talked about some of these too. Don't argue, it did rain yesterday. I don't know why you're arguing with her right now. Not really, but again, it goes back to, it's better to be happy than to be right. None of us like to be wrong. It's embarrassing. Is there really, I know you mentioned, not telling your mom that, or your sister that your mom passed away, and she's probably going to forget it if you told her anyway. So
what she don't, and that's the only thing she focuses.
yeah. And so it's just hard to know the right answer, but you guys know her best, so you make the right decision for her at this situation. So, and if she talks about your mom, I would just, just make sure that, you just talk about it. You don't have to, it doesn't come up. Yeah. But if it ever did, I would just say, well, what was your favorite thing about mom? I know she can't really respond that well, but, or you just talk about your favorite memories with her. But yeah, avoiding those hard subjects sometimes. Let's see, don't argue with them, validate the words that you heard or whatever they're feeling, because that's in their reality, it's really happening. I get that sometimes it just makes no sense what they're saying, and it's hard, but instead of reasoning with them, try to divert or change the subject. Lectures are not good in any form of our life, I don't think. We'd rather just be talked to and not lectured at. But look, again, avoid saying, remember, don't you remember? I just told you this yesterday. Well, no, they don't. They really don't remember. So it's just kind of, you're just asking for an argument or to make, you're just really, might as well just move on. That's the best you can do. Don't say you can't do this. Instead of, just tell them what they can do. Try to focus on what they're able to still do. Instead of what they can't do, because they do want to have a purpose. If they can fold towels, that's great. Let them keep doing it. If it's not good, then who cares? Have them do it again in an hour. They won't remember they just did it. So don't be condescending. Instead of encourage them. Don't reinforce those kind of things. Again, all things that we kind of use with our children. So things to avoid, really just, it's hard because you just want to be right all the time. We all do. So the behavior wandering is a hard one. A lot of times it is boredom. Maybe it's a side effect of a medication. So that's, again, you need to talk with the doctor to make sure that this isn't something that's happening because they're, because of a med. What are they looking for, or who are they looking for? Are they thirsty? Are they hungry? Do they need the restroom? Those are kind of things that you just have to tick off and tick away at and see if that's what's happening, what they're doing it for. Some of the interventions to identify the reason that they're wandering, try to distract them. We kept having people wandering into rooms, and so we just were able to get an activity going that they would be interested in. Sometimes you just have to really plan ahead, and that they get more active and wandering in the afternoon. So try to have something planned during that time that they're really active and getting out of the house or whatever. Have somebody come pick them up about 2 o'clock when they would get out of the house and take them for a ride. So that they, you just know it's going to happen. So you might as well make a plan for it and make it okay. So, exercising is great. They have a great class down here. People need to come on Tuesdays and Thursdays and work out. And I think a lot of times wandering to me is pain. You just feel better when you're out walking instead of sitting, if they're able to do that. So, identify reason for the wandering, distraction, engage them with something else, all those things that we can do. Don't stress out over the little things. And I think you would talk about that, is like, just got her 5 different shirts that look the same, and yeah, maybe, or I have a client who his wife will not let him bathe her, will not change her clothes, and he's just like, he wants to keep her home. So it's just like, yeah, her clothes are probably not as clean as they should be. And she probably hadn't had a bath in a long time, but she doesn't have any wounds. She doesn't have any infections, they don't go anywhere. So he's just like, I'm just not gonna fight that battle until I absolutely have to. And so it's just kind of like weighing the pros and cons and making sure, as long as their needs are met, sometimes it's just not worth that battle.
We reached a major milestone yesterday, and you'll appreciate this, Nikki. You finally agreed that you probably shouldn't be driving.
Now, if he remembers that he agreed.
Yeah. Because Amy was there at the time.
Oh,
She's a
good.
witness.
Yeah.
I'm
sure that'll work.
Right? No, not yet, but he always said, well, I'll know when I shouldn't be driving. I'll know. And I said, yeah, what, when you hit another car?
Yeah.
Or something, or you end up in Phelps County or something because you don't remember where you live. And he got mad is what he did. And he says, all right, fine, I just won't drive anymore. Yeah, because he was really fighting, and he was a traveling salesman. So when you said that about, why are they doing certain behaviors? He likes to drive.
Yeah.
And so but it's been something that's been stressing us for a while now. And he said, well, but you'll have to drive me everywhere. He said, that's a big job. And I said, not as big a job as worrying about you when you're gone with the car.
Great, yeah.
And so he and I hopefully he'll remember it.
I was gonna say, remember that was today.
Yes, that's true.
If he likes to drive, could he drive with him, or would that?
Yeah, no, that, in fact, he likes to drive, and when we get on the interstate, he can drive because I'm with him, and he wouldn't go without me anyway. And so he'll drive for a while, but then he'll get tired and say, you want to take over? But on the interstate, I feel a little more comfortable with him because it's pretty, right, repetitive and that, because we go to Omaha quite a lot, and we go to Kansas City quite a lot, and so that was.
I don't even like to drive in Kansas City.
I don't either, but I'm learning.
Yeah.
And so and he's been, I just thought of one of the things I read here too, is that he's been saying that about, maybe we should go for a drive somewhere. Yeah. What's around here that we can go visit and see? And I just realized, I think that's that traveling salesman who he wants to be out and go with.
Yeah. And so when you can accommodate that behavior or that want in his life, then you should do that.
Yeah. And so that was kind of an eye.
Maybe you'll be driving now, but he can at least see the scenery.
Yeah.
Well, this way you can look around better and let me know what you're seeing. And I'll watch for deer. Because it is rut season. It's dark out, so, yeah. So any other thoughts about wandering? Yeah.
I didn't say this when I introduced myself, but I do have a personal interest in this as well. My dad had Pick's disease, which is a form of dementia, and he would wander and he would get outside. And so my mom installed like a security system in the home. So she would know if he opened the door or whatever. And I know like the technology today is very advanced, so you could have cameras and, you would know, it would pop on your phone if, they open the door or things like that. So, I've seen that used as well, just the cameras, in the home to kind of keep an eye on things.
They also, with my sister-in-law, because she would walk all the time. And so they got the things you can put in their shoes, like in their shoestring or in their pants. It goes to your phone, so they always knew where she was at all the time.
GPS is amazing.
Yeah, a lot of things. Well, even like the watch and everything, but that's if they'll keep it on.
Right.
She didn't know she had this stuff there, so she didn't bother.
Yeah.
But that helped.
So it is their clothing and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of amazing things now.
Yeah. Yeah. And if they're a wanderer, take them for a walk if you can still do that with them, and make sure they're getting the exercise and 2 miles around the house or whatever, 20 miles. So I know time's getting short, so we want to kind of move on. Incontinence, obviously, one of the things that happens with dementia is they lose control over their bladder at times or bowel. and their ability to locate the bathrooms, or communicate their needs. Bathrooms over there, yeah, but.
Speaking which.
Some of the simple interventions you probably do with yourself, if you also spend a lot of time up and down at night going to the bathroom, limit your, we don't want anyone to get dehydrated, but you can start limiting fluids later on in the day, after 8 o'clock or something like that. One of the really nice things is if they're incontinent and can't communicate that to you when they have to go, set them up on a 2-hour schedule where you're just, hey, it's time to go to the bathroom. Don't ask them if they have to go to the bathroom, just say it's time to go to the bathroom. Because again, like you said, they don't like questions. So just present it as we need to do this.
We had troubles about 6 months ago about her putting, to go out in public, we wanted her brakes on, we if we have an accident, she would not fight, she was just like, I'm putting it on to her day caretaker, and my dad's like, the only way she'll put it on, usually if you're there, she won't, I'm like, she doesn't fight me, but I'm like, cause I legit just say, oh, if you wanna go shopping, these need to be on, she loves to shop, okay. I'm like, if she wants to take them off when she gets home, I don't care, but to get there, oh, you wanna go on a car ride, let's do this now, and I just said, if we do it for 3-4 days straight, she's not gonna know any difference. And finally got the girls to do it, and now it's just her day. She's good now with that. Yeah, so it really was just it was the first then
routine.
Yep, first then, let's first do this. I really want to go shopping too. Do you want some new jeans when we go there? So yeah, it worked with. That was probably one of the hardest things that my dad's like, she won't do it. She will do it, I promise you.
Yeah. And sometimes coming from him is probably not the best.
Yeah.
So getting her in the habit on her own. Good. And we talked about using signs for the bathroom so that they know where they are. One of the other things, a lot of times in the nursing home, the easier to remove clothing and easily wash, because sometimes they don't realize they have to go until it's almost too late. So if it's easier to get them on and off, then that's good. And look for those physical signs, that pacing, that wandering, the pulling and tugging at the clothes, or touching themselves. Those are all different things that you can look for to know, to try to avoid an incontinence problem. Moving on to agitation, which is the hard one. Obviously, there's irritability, there's sleeplessness. There can be verbal and physical aggression and agitation that can be very scary because that's not who they were before. Or maybe they were, some people are like that, but most of the time it's not their normal response. And so these actions can get worse as the stages of dementia move on. They aren't, and again, same thing, check for medical. Are they hot or tired? Are they cold? Are they hungry? What's causing this agitation? Check interventions for agitation would be to use the visual, verbal, and physical. So if it's safe and they're agitated, make sure they know you're there, use your words, get in their eyesight, don't come up behind them and touch them from behind, because if they're already agitated, they may swing at you. Make sure if you can't get close to them, that's okay. Just keep talking to them and getting in their vision, in their line of sight, and just trying to figure out what's wrong and asking them, questions and just reducing the noise and the anxiety and if you stay calm, hopefully they're going to calm down, just depending on the level. Of course, I did have one of the validation techniques is if none of that works, get mad with them. My boss, he was great at this. He would somebody was just throwing things and angry, and he just walked up to him and he picked something up and he threw it down and he started yelling with him, and the resident was like, dude, what's wrong? It was just really, it was the distraction that he needed to realize that he was making a mess, and so it worked that one, and it works. It just depends on the situation. Again, got to be creative, we got to be flexible, we got to try new things. So anyone have any history with agitation and how it maybe has worked for you dealing with it? Again, that startling is you see people all the time, they're in a wheelchair and people come up behind them, and it just scares them, you're gonna get punched, watch yourself, come around and be in their eyesight so that they can see you. Be gentle, smooth music or soothing music, reading, walking, massage, if you're really comfortable with that person and can offer them, if they're in pain, a massage, foot massage. I will take that any day when I'm in the nursing home, please. Yes.
My mother would go just like this. 1 minute she'd be kissing my hand and, being very nice. The next minute she'd be spitting at me, calling me an idiot. And you just have to realize that that's not that person. She never would have done that, she had been in her right mind, but this disease is a terrible disease and it changes a person and, and he doesn't remember. So it's up to you to remain calm, and I would just say, and she got to the point where she didn't know she was my mom. So I started calling her by her first name. I called her Margaret because that registered with her. But mom did not, because she didn't know she was mom. So, but, I just told her I loved her and I just didn't react to her anger.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the hugs helping, but also, I don't know that we've talked much about something that can agitate people when they're in advanced stages of dementia is their sensory, touch to their skin and their hair. And it's going to be a lot of the reasons why they aren't just interested in washing their hair or taking a shower, but just the feeling of the water or touch on the scalp, just to the skin can be very overstimulating for them. So that can actually agitate them as well. And be a trigger or a reason why they are not interested in doing some things that they didn't.
Any other thoughts?
So I had that trouble with her, trying to give her a shower, she didn't know water touching her. When they struggle with getting her a shower too.
A lot of places have the whirlpool tubs now too, that are can be easier because the water's not hitting on you, causing that. But I mean, there's something about bathing and changing your clothes.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because, and that's one of my slides, but I don't know if we get to it or not. But because it's such an intimate thing that we've done all by ourselves most of our lives. It's just it's a really hard thing.
Said all the ability bathroom, now you're in there with them during the pool.
Yeah, and that's something you always wanted to do by yourself.
I did that with my mom. I got in the shower with her. And when you think of what Jim told you about going to get the milk, you've got to unbutton your shirt, you've got to take off your shirt, you've got to take down you've got to get naked. There's so many steps to that. Then you've got to step into the tub or the shower, you've got to turn on the shower. There's so many processes that it is just overwhelming. So doing that with them is something that makes them feel more comfortable sometimes. If they will let, sometimes they won't. She did it.
Yeah.
She let me do that.
No. Yeah, for whatever reason around bathing, the agitation can be pretty high. Yeah. But again, it's a very intimate thing.
My dad would get very stubborn about taking a bath. But the biggest thing was just the routine of it too. There were some people that he responded to better than other people because we had home health come in and help him give the bath. And so we always knew the people that we wanted there when it was bath day. And a lot of it's just trial and error and
having that team too, of people that you can respond, you can have help you with.
Sometimes he would stand there and he would not get in that bathtub or nothing. And then the next person would come in, and I don't know if it was the way they talked to him or if it was a man versus a woman. Sometimes he would respond better to women than he would men and vice versa. So
we found it was family versus non-family. Didn't want to do it with family, but if it was a non-family person, okay, I guess.
Follow the rules. But yeah, and sometimes you can get away with just the spit baths, that's what they were used to. Maybe that's what they did for the last 10 years when they lived by themselves. They really never did take a bath. They just did a spit bath and they went to the hairdresser every week for their hair washing. So, just really getting to know that person's important. And I know you guys all know your person very well, but, yeah, just learning who they are is really the best way to get through the agitation. So, repetitive speech, we kind of talked about that already, what's causing it. I mean, obviously with those ladies yesterday, it was just that their brain is affected that way. Nothing I could do was gonna stop that. I tried, entertaining them with a song, which I have a horrible voice, so that's usually not a good idea. But I tried to, give them something to do or someone to talk to, I tried to touch and it's hard. You just have to keep trying the different things. And sometimes just say the word back to them and they'll at least know you're hearing them, I'm scared too sometimes, and this is what I do, or, say a prayer with them. I don't know if any of your people that you're taking care of really have this issue, but it could happen down the road, and it's one of the harder ones. You start wondering, why is staff ignoring them? Well, then after you spend 10 minutes trying to tell them to quit saying, help me, you realize that, that's just their repetitive thing, and you made sure they're safe, and that's all that you can really do to meet that need at that time. So nutrition, it's just really important, I don't know if you guys talked about this yesterday, is ways to combat, dementia is to have good nutrition and good health and things like that. Well, even if you do have dementia, it's still very important to eat good. A lot of times I feel like our families get very frustrated with nursing homes because they're diabetic, but they don't care. They just give them whatever they want. And so they're having lots of sugar, which is not helpful for the brain, those kind of things. So you as their advocate can always, try to address that. The only battle I've ever won with that is it was because of their religion that they didn't eat sugar and or certain things. And that was really respected in the nursing home. But when it was just, when that person could say, no, I want the cookie over the fruit, you really don't have very good argument there, because if they can voice that, it's the resident right to have whatever they want. And then their blood sugar is at 400, so it can be a big battle. But it is really important to have good, it helps with your, especially hydration. You'll see too, I think we talked about the infections causing more dementia behaviors, but dehydration can be a huge thing where they just don't even know where they're at anymore. And so, making sure they drink plenty of water is really important.
Part of the desire to eat and be effective, or did you mention this about the loss of taste? You get a change in around food taste, or can't taste it at all. That can be part of your dementia, and you learn that there may only be a few things that you know to eat at that point.
And sugar is one of the things that people just still enjoy most of the time, and so that's why a lot of times that's what you'll see people gravitate towards.
It's the last taste bud we do.
Yeah.
We did a lot of the milk chocolate ensures.
Yeah.
By the case.
Yeah, I like that idea because my mom has never liked sweets, and we go through the grocery store, she's like, I want that, and it's like a candy bar. Like, yeah, I mean, we have one of those at home. She's like, we do? Yeah, no, but we keep rolling through, but like you're having a milkshake.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put it in a glass with it, and then we did a lot of fruit smoothies, get the protein powder that has no flavor and put it in there. We blend it with fruit and mix several of them, put them in the freezer, and then you set it out,
Throw some ice cream in
night before, and that way it's kind of slushy, like that.
Yeah, and that can be nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll put it with pudding or applesauce, but I don't know if there's any.
Works for a while.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and sometimes medication gives you a taste of metal. Your food tastes like metal. It can change how things taste. So yeah, and then they can't communicate to you why they don't want that anymore. So they're just turning their head. And you have to try to figure out why.
First, I think she had trouble swallowing, so she started chewing.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, a lot of times with dementia, that the ability to swallow becomes very difficult, or impossible. And so you maybe, if it's pain meds that you're trying to get on, maybe you need to start looking towards creams or patches, things that can help with the pain but they can't get that medication down anymore. So, or liquids. I think somebody used liquids, liquid medication to help with some of those things. And you just need to talk to your pharmacy or your doctor about what other options are out there for you when swallowing and getting the nutrition down, and it's not working back very well. Kind of talked about dressing. Oh, what? Skip the whole page. Sorry, a lot more things than I thought I needed here. On nutrition though too, I want to talk about, sometimes it's better to have 5 or 6 meals a day, just little small snacks. If there's someone that can't sit still at a table for a whole meal like they used to, well, give them a sandwich and they can walk around with their sandwich. Give them finger food so they can, walk around their finger food or chips or whatever. But you're still trying to, just have food around for them to eat. Make sure it's, if we at the nursing home I worked at, we were all the staff was encouraged to sit with the residents and eat with them, because it's just a lot better to eat with somebody, that you're, I hate eating alone. Who likes to go to the restaurant and eat alone? Nobody. So if you have somebody sitting there eating, you can mimic what they're doing. More likely they're going to be able to feed themselves, or you can at least assist them to get them started. Sometimes that's all it takes. But just sitting down with that person and enjoying your time with them, because there's a really great book I wish I would have brought it. It's called Creating Moments of Joy with People who have Dementia, and it just really kind of highlights that even though they're not the same, there can be really great moments of joy and being their caregiver and taking care of them and finding the humor in it when you can, even though it's hard. So we talked about bathing. Dressing kind of goes along the same lines of that. The paranoia and hallucination. Anyone want to touch on that anymore? Paranoia and hallucinations. One of the things that's really hard about that is a lot of times your loved one thinks that you're, maybe even having an affair, or that's a big thing. Or in the nursing home, it's so and so stole my purse, or you took it, and it's just really important not to. I know as a spouse, you want to say, I would never cheat on you, and say all those things and make it okay and tell them that you love them. And that might be what they need to hear. So you got to, again, trial and error, figure out what's going to work when that happens. If it's simple thing like, somebody stole my purse, then I always like to be the hero. I'm like, let's go find them. I will help you find your purse, and then you find it under, even though she thought I was the one that stole it. Like, no, I'm gonna help you find it. And so we would go search for the purse, and of course we would find it in her closet, and she would be happy. And then I'd steal it again tomorrow, and go through the same thing. So just really trying to figure out the best way that's going to work for that person. I lost my train of thought, sorry. Educate, if they're suspicious, sometimes I just said, I'm sorry. I said, you're right, I shouldn't have done that, and I'm really sorry. And once somebody's apologizing and feeling, saying they copped up to the problem, then they're, now you're forgiven, we're going to move on. So it just kind of depends on the situation and what will work for that person. But sometimes you just have to live in the reality, live in the truth that they're living in, and that's going to make your life a lot easier. It's hard to figure it out because you just want them to know that we are not in World War II right now. Everything's safe, but sometimes they're reliving their past and they're having a hard time. But anyone want to talk about the hallucinations or delusions that they see? My aunt just says, Grandma, I'm on my way. It'll be 20 minutes before I get to the church and the pies will be fine. That's all she needed to know, is somebody was coming. It's that therapeutic lie or whatever, because it's 2 a.m. But, by the time she was calm and back in bed, she forgot that she had, even worried about anything like that. So.
Yeah, my husband woke up at 1:35 one night, and I said, what do you need? And he goes, why did you just tell me that it was time to get up? I said, I didn't actually. You woke me up from sleep.
Yeah.
You were in there. No, I wasn't in there, but it's time to go back to bed. The next day he remembered that he did that, but he didn't remember why or what he said. But before that, I think the time that probably got me more was when he told me there was a mouse in his room.
Yeah.
And then he informed me it was in his bed. And that would be a horrible thing to visualize.
Unless it's a pet mouse.
Yeah.
My sister had a pet mouse. Yeah, but, and that's a good point though, too. A lot of times if people, they see people, there's, what's that little girl in the corner? Why is she standing in there? I don't understand why she's standing there. And you know, if it's something that's bothering them and causing them fear and anxiety, then you really want to try to address that. Again, make sure with your medical doctor that there's not something wrong with the medications that they're taking, or, you know, maybe they do have an infection and that's what's causing the problem too. But I had one lady who's like, oh, she's so cute. I just love it when she comes to visit me. Okay, great. We're gonna move on, you know, and that little girl's gonna stay in the corner, and if she misbehaves, you tell me. I'll take care of it. Okay, so, you know, again, it doesn't always have to be a big deal, and we just kind of have to figure out how to get through this thing called life with the person with dementia. So, we talked about sundowning and sleeplessness and a little bit. You can quit anytime. Anyone want to talk, anyone struggle with that?
Does anybody on Zoom?
Yeah, they had any questions?
Does anybody on Zoom have any questions?
Or situations?
Yeah, it's been hard for them.
Situations that you want to share? Or have questions about?
This is Mary Jo Haka. I guess the one thing that I might share is that Larry sees a neurologist at KU, and one of the first things they told us was he should only eat red meat twice a week. And they have him kind of on a Mediterranean diet. When you look at a plate, half of it's supposed to be vegetables and fruit. And as far as sundowning, he doesn't have anything like that, but I just thought I would share that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think we had to talk about the different diets out there before or, you know, as a preventative way. I wasn't a part of that conversation very much. Was it called the blue zone?
Oh,
Blue
Blue zones, yeah.
Mary Jo, are you in agreement with what the doctor said?
Well,
or is it difficult?
You know, I guess I think we're maintaining, and I can see we eat a lot more seafood than we ever have, and I don't know for sure, but I guess I'm just trying to do the best I can, since that was their suggestion. And then of course the exercise, I think I can see a change there more than anywhere else. And he rides a bicycle at the gym, I would say 3 to 4 days a week.
Great.
And I think that is really, if I had to say one thing, I think that has made a difference.
Yeah, if you can keep them active, eating healthy, drinking lots of fluids, you'll have your best chance of being successful, you know, for a longer period of time. Yeah. Very good. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else online? Anyone else?
With her dog in the background. We've never had an indoor dog. We've always had black labs, but I got an indoor dog because I bought a house with a dog before. But anyway, it has been the best thing for my husband.
Nice.
It's been really good.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And he's very friendly.
Yes, she is very friendly. This is our social dog.
Yeah.
What kind of dog did you get? What type of dog?
It's called a Zushan. It's part Shih Tzu and part Zushan. Yeah.
That's what my mom.
But she's been very good for him. I've been pleased with that, because I never knew. He didn't want one to begin with because he wanted big dogs. And I said, I want something that can lay in my lap.
Yeah, they will. Pyrenees. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I just want to let everybody know that, and we will have resources at the end too, but I run the Alzheimer's support group, and we do it by Zoom. And we'll be doing one tomorrow at 2:30. We have flyers back here, and I think we put it up yesterday, right? It's in the other one, but
Oh, yeah.
it's always the second Thursday of every month at 2:30 by Zoom, and you email me and I will send you the Zoom, and it's the same Zoom link for every month. So, it's just, and we've been running it for 3 years now, and, we have people with all different, who are caregivers for very different types of dementia, not just Alzheimer's. We have some people who have Lewy bodies, frontal temporal, trying to think. We have people in there who have one, spouse has a brain trauma, so they're in there too, so. You can have anywhere from 3 to 8 people on at a time. It seems like it just depends on the month and what everybody is up to. So.
Sometimes we get kind of silly and.
Yeah.
Right, Jerry.
Never.
It's good, important to have that support group, whether it's your family or again, your church or just your neighbors or friends. So hopefully, I don't think we can close everything out. I just hope that you guys have learned something new, or, just realize how important it is to have others to share your thoughts and your problems with. And so that you can start building that support that you need, because it's going to take, that whole saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It's the same thing when you're dealing with somebody who has dementia. If you try to do it all yourself, you are the gatekeeper. That's what my boss says all the time. And when you crash as the caregiver, then we got problems, because then we have 2 people that we need to take care of. And right now, if we take care of you first, the whole thing in the airplane, they always say, put your mask on before you worry about your child. Because if you pass out, then you're both going to be in a world of hurt. And same thing with this. If you're not taking care of yourself, then we're gonna have even worse problems down the road. So make sure that you're taking proper care of yourself. And there are some books, like you said, on the back, and feel free to take those, and always think outside the box. If there's anything you ever need, you can call Nikki and get on the support group, or call my office, and we can visit.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
How about for people that have put their loved one in a nursing home or a memory care facility to help them with the guilt?
Yeah. And I think one of the things we talk about too is, just because you have all these caregivers, or you put somebody in long-term care, you still play a huge role in their care as their advocate and their voice. And so, again, it's taking care of you, because if you hadn't done that, I think we probably, would have had 2 people that we were taking care of, because it got to the point where it wasn't safe for that person or for the caregiver. So, the guilt is just something that you have to, that's what, again, your family and your friends support is probably what's best to help you deal with that guilt. It's very common for many people that had to ask for help, because we're just not built that way. We really are self-sufficient people. We want to do things ourselves, and we don't want others to know our business. And, that sometimes it becomes a point where it's just necessary. And just kind of really focusing on the role that you can take now, even though it's a little bit different, but, still visiting and making sure that they're getting that good care, and calling, just checking in as often as you can, and just being their voice, because at that point, they don't have that voice. They can't communicate their needs, but you know them way better. So.
I'm sorry, what did you say your name was?
Carol.
Carol. Are you asking, can you come to the support group if you're not caring for somebody in the home? Because we have both.
Yeah.
We have people who are taking care of someone in the home, and people who have put their loved one in a facility.
People who've already passed away too.
Yeah. We have people whose loved one has already passed away too. So yeah, it's open, because you're still a caregiver. I mean, you're still involved with that person.
And you have to remember one thing. I know you feel guilty, because I used to have people come in and help sit with my wife like maybe 4 hours a day, 1 day a week, so I could go to the grocery or something. And I'd barely be out of the house and I gotta hurry and get back home because I don't want her to be, there by herself. And then after a while you stop and you think about it and you realize that how would she feel about you if the tables were switched? She probably feel a little bit guilty, but you're trying to do the best for them that you possibly can. That's where you have to let people help you. Cause I had a hard time at first. People wanted to help by coming in and watching her. I said, no, we're okay, no problem. Well, that's the only thing that they felt they could do to help you. And I wasn't allowing them to have that. So eventually I decided, okay, let them help me. And then you realize that it's the best thing for your wife or your spouse.
Or your sibling.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable to do it by yourself for a long period of time. You have to have a support group as much as you can to let them help you so you can be the best caregiver you can be.
This summer I took over the schedule and my dad had one person and it was it, and then he was trying to do the rest. And you could see the wear and tear on him. And I said, this isn't gonna work. Like, you can't call me last minute to be over there. Let's get more people. And I'm not like, he has guilt there. I remember one night he called, he said, and he was crying. He said, I didn't take mom to my class reunion meeting. And I said, that's okay. He's like, no, I feel so bad. And I said, I'm gonna tell you right now, she's having more fun with those girls than she'd probably be having fun with you. He's like, oh, that's right, you're probably right. That was the first time that he didn't take her to it and just the guilt. And then somebody just asked him to K-State and he was like, no, I can't go. That guy called us and I said, oh, he's going. I said, we'll figure it out. Like, one of us girls or one of our girls will come in and he will go. Like, it's that, I know she's not in a home yet and he already feels that guilt, but it was like, truly, I was just like, you have to stop. Like, let me take care of this because you're so close to it that I feel guilty asking for the people for help. So he'll get to that time too. But I know that, like, as my sister and I, we worry about him because he's gonna crash if he doesn't take the help. So you're gonna have the guilt, but you're still there for the other people in your life too.
Everyone has their own skills that they're good at too, that come out. When you have a team of people that are doing things, you realize, oh, that person is really good at the scheduling. That person is good at helping with the, getting them around the house and doing things they need to do. And, we found out now that my father-in-law's in the home, whereas my mother-in-law was not, that some of the skills that were great for the in-home care don't translate so great to in the home care, that checking in on how the staff's doing with him in there, that the opposite people that were doing stuff over here are doing that really well over in that side of things in the home. And it's just interesting how it all comes out. You figure it out. And again, that's still trial and error too, just as much as figuring out what's best for the person that needs the care is what can you do and where's your part in it? You don't have to do it all.
And you as a caregiver, if you're getting down, getting depressed, feel like you're not doing the job, talk to your doctor. Because you gotta take care of yourself first. Because like she said before, if you go, then there's two people that need help. Whereas right now, you're the caregiver, but do talk to your doctor, they can give you something.
I mean, I get it all the way up to the end, but she's in the home.
Yeah.
I mean, it just feels so bad for putting it.
Right. I guess I was fortunate in that respect. I got to keep my wife home until she passed. But if you want to call that fortunate or not, but I got to the point where I got very depressed. I remember one night thinking it would be so easy to take her out of bed, take her, put her in the car, and just start the car. And then sat for the rest of the night just sitting in the living room crying. And then I mentioned that to a friend the next day. Well, you just thought I shot him or something because he had to go to the doctor immediately.
Yeah.
And they did prescribe something to me, and we're so stubborn around here. An antidepressant, you don't take that. You can take care of this without doing that. And I finally agreed to take it, and I ended up having to double it, later on, but it's very helpful, very helpful.
I guess the question,
Steve,
what do you think would have happened if you didn't?
I don't know, she'd still be home.
Yeah.
You know, I worried that my mother was going to poison my dad because he was still cooking. And one time when I went home, because I lived away, far away, he was gonna feed us this piece of meat with his hand. And it was green and had mold on it. Oh my God. And I looked at that and I said, we're not gonna eat this. And she goes, why? What's wrong with it? And I said, well, I said, you know, this is bad. You can't, you know, it needs to be thrown out. So when I went and talked to my dad, I said, Dad, I said, I'm worried about you. You know, and he said, oh, well, she's giving me stuff that has a little mold. I figured a little penicillin wouldn't kill me. But again, you know, it was a safety thing, you know, and it took 7 years before, you know, it got to the point that they really needed to do something different. So, I mean, yeah, if she was at home, okay, but how is that gonna work? You know, and I would imagine if you could have kept her at home, you would have figured it out. But if this is the alternative, that's what those places are for, is to help.
I think there's been a lot of change in the last 10 years or so about treatment for people with memory problems.
It has.
I remember, I've heard stories about my great grandmother. They locked her in a mental institution in her 50s, and because she was crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was dementia, but they locked her up.
But it's just like my mom, you know, I'm not her. I pulled the key, so she got told to drive a car. If she'd like me for that, then I put her over in over at homestead. She didn't like me for that. So, you know, my mom is, you know, I'm not the best guy in the world.
Well, that would be great. She's still trying to figure you out.
Yeah, but she told me, you know, I got burned out on the farm. We had that wildfire back in 2021, and I lost my farm. And I was busy trying to clean the farm up, and I sold some ground off. And now I only could go maybe over twice a week to see her, but she's still good at it. But now she's different. And she told my granddaughter, she said, she can't figure out what's wrong with her because I come over every day and see her, you know. And, you know, it seems like I never do anything right. You know, whatever I do, like they are over there and she's sleeping and she says, she said, I'm just resting my eyes. And then she fell asleep and I got up, I left. She said, what'd you come here for anyway? Because you're gonna leave right away.
There's a question, it just says, this is such a great opportunity for loved ones and caregivers alike. Thank you so much for putting this on. I heard something a few minutes ago about a weekly or monthly meeting. Is that open like this is? I think your.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, again, we do it the second Thursday of every month. My email is, people will email me and, then I will send them a Zoom link. You want to put my email in the chat?
Yes, I'll get it.
And it is an open format like this where you have an open discussion, right?
Yes.
That, yeah, that was asked too.
Yeah.
How long is, you know, my mom sleeps all the time. How long is that? You just do that when your parents think?
Well, I mean, they are gonna sleep. I mean, it depends on the person too, but I always picked a time that I knew that she was pretty lovely before I would go see.
Oh, yeah.
So you just have to, but.
Because I get there a lot of times she's sleeping, you know, and they say, oh, you can wake her up, you know, but. You know, she used to go there, she'd be awake all the time. Now I go there, she's got her head down, and she's sleeping, you know. And then I'll be talking to her, carrying a conversation before I know it, her head won't sleep again. Then I wake up and get out and say, where are you going?
Well, and sometimes when I get home, I would just step. I would just step, wouldn't do anything, I just said, and that was the last. That was the last thing I had. 369. I did that with her.
I never had.
I didn't want to.
My parents. 2 weeks.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Very much.
Does anyone else need the Facebook page for?
No.
But it different than you were a lot.
First part, I'm doing it. And all the rest are-
Get that food?
He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I can't talk with people.
Well, there's.
Thank you.
There's.
Thank you.
Whatever happened. Yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah, I mean, so.